Hi, my name is Brian Wickland with Garfinkel Schwartz. I'm lead counsel here in Maitland, Florida. That's a suburb of Orlando. We also have an office in Cocoa Beach, Florida, which is in the middle of the Space Coast. I'm here today to explain to you pretty much my insights on what's become a very large problem in our area of the world, in our neck of the woods per se, in terms of the law under the Defense Base Act, which is PTSD. I actually kind of snickered when I was a young guy and I heard people call themselves attorneys and counselors at law. Did not really understand what that meant until I got a little older. Today I'm coming to you as a counselor more so as an attorney to try to just get you information that you and your families need to try to get you diagnosed with PTSD if you so happen to have that. Our clients under the Defense Base Act particularly are called a bunch of different things. I've heard them called overseas contractors, federal contractors, private military contractors, overseas translators, military translators, linguists, field operations personnel, whatever that is, whatever they're called, they're the forgotten people in our society, basically. And what I mean by that is they have no voice if they see something or they get affected by something overseas that's a tragic occurrence, that might be a brutal occurrence, that might cause potential mental problems when they get back home. A lot of my clients served in Iraq and Afghanistan right beside the military personnel, saw the exact things that they saw. But when they came back in 2011, 2012, they weren't provided necessarily anything. And when I mean anything, I mean nothing. They got a plane ticket home, they said thanks a lot for the service, and they went home. Whereas in the military, PTSD is a hot issue. It's been a hot issue for a few years now. Military people get vetted. They have briefings, exit briefings. They're analyzed to see if they're not really the same person they were after a certain combat mission, things like that. Our clients have no voice. They're the forgotten soldiers. They're the forgotten ones. And there are a lot of them out there. In fact, there are probably so many out there that you might be shocked, because as of right now, there are more civilian contractors overseas than there are military, at least in Afghanistan and Iraq and the Middle East. Considering that's a hot button in the military, there are a lot of support groups that are out there for military personnel. Unfortunately, after the last couple of years of me searching, I have not found one that basically caters simply to overseas contractors / whatever else you want to call them. And we're trying to make our best efforts to have that voice, to provide a voice for those people, the people that we represent. But as a counselor, what I've been seeing a lot of is complete and utter denial of having symptoms or telling anyone about their symptoms. And there are a lot of reasons why an overseas contractor would have that type of denial situation. A lot of times they're afraid to talk about what they've seen overseas because they're afraid that they may violate a confidentiality agreement with the United States. A lot of times they don't have the type of training to know and understand what's going through their mind and what's affecting them. Denial is a very, very deep-seated thing in a person's mind, and it's very difficult to get through to a person that's in denial. They might be in denial so badly that they deny that they're in denial, and I see that a lot, which is kind of shocking. However, that's just how the mind works when it gets overexposed to certain things. The reason that denial is mostly, in my opinion, deep-rooted into our clients at first is because they originally, to take a job like that, they have to have love for country. They have to have secret security clearance, meaning that they have to be top-notch people. And when you're a top-notch person, you have a deep sense of who you are and how you were brought up and how you view yourself and the world. And when that stuff all starts being ripped apart in your brain, whether that's 3 months after you've seen some bad things or whether that's 3 years after you've seen some bad things, it's difficult to understand that you're a different person than you were back then when you had your sense of who you were. Basically what I'd like to talk about, more so in terms of the client, the potential client, it's the families that are affected by these things. And maybe give a little bit of advice as to how to help your loved one seek the treatment that they may need. And when I talk about denial, it's very difficult. Even your own spouse could have a problem getting through to each other and to talk these things out, because it's difficult for the spouse to understand what position their spouse is in. I have three pieces of advice that I think have been effective in the past for people. Number one is simply to sit down with your spouse and explain to them not what you think is wrong with them, but what is affecting your life and how important it is to try to get help on behalf of the family, not on behalf of the individual person who may be in denial. Those are tough conversations to have, but if you focus on your family and you explain the things that are going through in your own mind, and things like isolation, like we don't go to movies anymore, we don't go to the park anymore, I really miss those things. Let's try to do that again. What can we do to try to do those things again? I miss going out I miss going out and just walking around the neighborhood. I'd like to try to get outside and get some fresh air. Whatever that is, in my opinion, it's easier to focus on your symptoms as the wife or husband than to try to push the symptoms on that person, which could cause problems and troubles with the person that's affected by these symptoms. Also, there's a sense of emotional numbness that you might feel or experience, that you're not close to that person anymore. Talk to them about that and explain that's how you feel. I feel like we're falling away from each other. We're not doing things intimately anymore like we used to do. And maybe try to get through the person's mind and then the denial that he or she has a duty to try to do this for their family. If that doesn't work, I would advise to get more involved in their regular normal medical treatment. I've had clients in the past that end up going to the primary care physician with their loved ones, explaining certain things that are happening in the household, and that may open the person in denial up at least enough to go see someone else besides their normal doctor that they see. Maybe someone that specializes a little bit more in the anger and the anxiety and things that they're feeling. Thirdly, you can always call our office. We take calls from family members all the time. Most of my clients with severe PTSD, I talk to them over speakerphone or in person with them at their house, with the wives and family members involved in every step of the way, and even involved up to a formal hearing or trial. That way, I can try to help the family as a counselor a little bit more than just being a person's attorney and pushing paperwork and trying to get a claim filed. The final thing, which might sound a little bit drastic, but it has worked in the past, is that if you, as the spouse, actually feel feelings of isolation, depression, anger about the situation, feelings of despair because maybe you feel like you're contributing to the reasons why this stuff is not working, why this person is in such denial, you might want to seek treatment on your own. And if you seek treatment on your own by a mental health practitioner, it may open your spouse's mind up to say, this isn't so bad after all. This isn't such a terrible thing that I'll be chastised for walking into the office. Maybe if they see you getting the help that you need for your depression or anxiety, that might open the door for him to at least come, he or she to at least come to a counseling session and open up the door to see if he can be evaluated for PTSD. I hope you learned a little bit from this. I could talk on forever, but I'm now signing off from our Maitland office at Garfinkel Schwartz. Thank you very much for listening.